Hello and welcome to the whatwasthatradio.com's YouTube. Yeah. You can find out more by going to whatwasthatradio.com. Sass aside, it's all about discovering modern rock alternative, nothing older than the 2017 release. And of the 5,000 unique bands, all these releases, well, are no older than 2020. It's about constant forward movement in finding galvanizing creators of music. And that is what led me to Pep Squad. This three-piece, look, it's not their first foray. They've been involved in music for many, many years. As solo performers in bands, as writers, producers, you name it. And they were looking for a release. That's what brought them together. Having made friends as part of that community, they jumped in the studio and started making some really flipping quirky takes on alt rock that I've got a lot of time for. So it's a delight to pick their brains, get to know them more, and welcome to a conversation with Pep Squad. If you enjoy what you check out here, I would love you to consider a cheeky follow, like, and subscription. But you do what brings you joy, always. Sorry to point. How long have I been living in Canada? Let me rephrase that. Know that that point wasn't aggressive.
Hello.
Whoa, that was instant, Kat.
I beat the guys. Wow, that's so not like me.
Well, and usually you have this awkward 30 to 60 seconds of just people going, oh, I'm just getting the audio connected and the camera going. So
Yeah.
you came in straight off the bat working, which is great.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I really appreciate your time in advance of this conversation and giving me this time to just talk about and get to know and make some new friendships, basically.
Of course. I love your setup back there. I like the artwork on the walls. It's totally my vibe. I love it.
That is all down to my partner Jody, who just got back from school with Harley, and she loves the 70s. And we start, and I say this every interview, is it always gets the fast compliment in that I am not responsible for anything other than keeping the fish tank clean. Everything else is Jody's wonderful.
Not the only one.
Yeah, Jody's wonderful putting together. Here comes Curtis. Fabulous.
I beat you, Curtis.
Hey. How's it going?
Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm down in San Diego at my parents' house, finishing up holiday stuff. That's why there's an old printer and a weird picture in the back.
I'm in Vegas. We're all over the place right now.
And what, Dan's in LA when he joins us shortly, or where is he at these days?
He's actually in Vegas too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He just moved though, so he actually lives here. We're just visiting, but we're leaving actually after our interview.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yo.
right.
There he is.
What's up, guys?
Oh, rocking a Fu
Dan.
Manchu. I like it.
Yeah, trying to be a little stylish for you all.
Yeah, that's.
Hey.
I trimmed my neck beard, my English gappy abomination of a couple of grades too short, so I feel like we've timed that cut well, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. I'm proud of you for trimming the neck beard. I have not.
It's just
That really the neck beard is really the key part. The difference between homeless and hipster is the neck beard.
Oh my god, I'm right on the fucking line. I'm right on the line.
That's fine. That's a good place to be.
It's it's the biggest. It gets to a point where eventually it does a good job in hiding the gaps, and then it gets to a point where it's just a little bit too ridiculous and needs to go and be reset. And that's the moment we find ourselves in now.
Totally get it. Yeah.
So what's important to check firstly is the rest of the day for getting out of Vegas. Is there a flight booked? Is there a hard schedule? I don't want to hold anything up here.
Well, we're driving out. So we were supposed to leave this morning when we dropped my sister off at the airport, but we dropped her off at 3 a.m. So of course we just went back and slept. Her flight was at 5 a.m. So it's just we were gonna leave around that time, and it was just too crazy. So now we're just gonna leave after this.
Okay, perfect. Because the way this is going to go is that I'm just galvanized and excited by the sounds that you guys have been making. It's not that the three of you haven't been creators for an awful long time, but the way I've approached this conversation is different to how I might go about a Black Pumas or a Nothing But Thieves or a Cage Elephant, in the sense that I don't really want to know much beyond what I already know, if that makes sense. I'd rather it be an organic conversation where there's no one saying I know this and I know that when I don't. I just want to get to know the three of you, how you came to be, how Pep Squad is, and we can talk about Mark Prasad later. But the three of you for now.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
So where do we want to start with this? I mean, Kat, you're ringing up these two. How do you know these two in the first place to say, let's let off some steam, let's shoot the shit and make some music?
This actually is a project that lets off some steam. So you did say it perfectly, because we all kind of blow off steam here. But it actually started with Dan. Dan started this project first, and then he brought in Curtis, and then I came in. So I was the last piece of this puzzle.
Yeah, we had all Dan and Kat hadn't worked. They didn't know each other, but Kat and I had worked together writing for Wars. Her other band, and then Dan and I had worked together with a number of artists, but we had just got done working with Dan, help me out, Hail the Sun.
Yeah, I think we had done Hail the Sun,
right? And they were like a heavier rock thing. So Dan's like, hey, I've been talking over this idea to do I really want to do like a female fronted rock band. You write rock music, what do you think? And I was like, well, there's one person I know that I would love to do this with if she's down, and her name's Kat. So if she's down, I'm in. And Kat was down, and we didn't really know what it was going to be. We kind of had a vague idea what we wanted it to sound like, but it turned out way cooler and way different than I could have ever anticipated.
I mean, it was one of those situations where we got in together for the first time. I'd heard of Kat. I'd seen Kat perform with a buddy of ours. And right away, there was this kind of chemistry. We have all written with a bunch of people, and you work for 10 years in this career and hope for a day like that day that we had, where it just like everything just made sense. It all worked great. And the products that we came out with, we were all stoked on. It was heavy. It was aggressive. It was ratchet. Bratty, sick. Yeah. It was great.
Ratchet. Yeah.
It was ratchet.
Yeah.
This project, I think, also kind of brought out sides of each of us that we didn't realize we had before it. Like, I was doing a very specific thing that I'm still doing in my other project. Curtis was starting his project, and we all kind of were working in like the sync trailer music world too. So we had a little blend of everything, but this project was a sound that all of us didn't quite do at that time, and honestly didn't even know. Not that we didn't know we could do, but like they said, like we didn't really know it was going to sound like this when it came out. And then I think it was Trouble was the first song we wrote, and then I don't know. I think I got behind the mic, and I don't know if I was just hyped up on caffeine that day or what, but it came out really aggressive, and Dan was like pushing it further. So a lot of like the vocal delivery sound comes from all of us too. Like Dan, there'll be times where I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go a little more subdued today, and he's like, I want like big personality. So we push it, and then now I realize like Pep Squad has become such a sound for me personally that even if I release a song on Holy Wars, I'll have friends be like, oh, is this Pep Squad? I'm like, no, it's Holy Wars. But I can't help it because it's like, it's in me now. Like, it's a beast that came out that I can't really tame anymore.
No, and it woke, I think it really woke up at something that we all love that we weren't getting to do that way. But, I always say, and I think Dan will back me up, this thing flows through Kat's like unrelenting energy, and that's how we're able to we can always go further because she can always go further. So that's such really a range to be.
I mean, we all have such diverse backgrounds, but it really does fall on, all right, Kat, how aggressive can you be today? And it's always like you tell her to go to 10 and she'll go to 11. It's so easy to make something that sounds insane, and you'd rather push it further and then to have to dial it back than just keep pushing.
It really is like blowing off steam like that, and it's cool because
for all of us.
Like, especially lyrically too. Like, we'll love to play with metaphors and be very poetic in certain styles of our music. But with this one, it was so cool to just literally say, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like it was fun. Like say the things that are like in our mind that we're just a little too polite to say out loud, but we're thinking it. In this project, we just say it. And it's almost like the like you said, the brattiness. There's like this like confidence that comes in this project that like I said, it's like a beast. Like once it's out, I realized like this really was like an unlocked part of myself that I didn't know that not that I know I could do, but I didn't know it was okay to do. Like, oh, I could be this ratchet and confidently say what I really want to say. So this project has been really important for my personal growth. So.
Well, that is a fabulous and brilliant answer. I'm a lover of context. And whilst I could talk the hind legs off a donkey, know that when I ask a question, you have as long as you are comfortable in answering it, because that is what I live for, is the context. 'Cause I came across Rebel and Trouble. Those were the first two I found out about when they were under 1,000 plays on Spotify. And I remember listening to it and going, who the fuck are these people? Because this is not a first single. This was an evolution. This was a journey. This was a pattern of growth and a coming together of personnel that were like, no, this is what we want to flipping make. So let's take a massive step back and get the context on what inspired the three of you individually to begin with. I've asked tenfold over my 15 years of having a chance to speak with people, what's your earliest musical memory? But I think really it's, what's the earliest musical memory that impacted you in a sense that you were like, that is fucking me. I need to be, Kat, maybe we'll start with you. I need to be on the stage. I need to do my thing. What is the first memory that really propelled you into the lustful creation?
Oh, I've had this sickness in me since I was a kid. I equate wanting to be an artist as being deranged. It's like what you go through to do it. Yeah, I think it was my sister. I saw her on stage when I was like 5 years old. And I just knew it in that moment. Like that was my life. And I never went away from it. And it's taken many forms. I've done acting. I've done, I played instruments. I sing. I've done it all. Musical theater. That was my first experience of wanting to be on the stage. It was really young. And I've been on the stage since I was like 5 years old. And I never got off of it. But I think too, with being in a band though, that came later, like wanting to do music professionally. Like I dabbled in a lot. I wrote music in my, my bedroom on my piano, like breakup songs kind of stuff. But I was dating a musician when I first moved out here to California. And I don't know, I think I just had this like envy that like I would go and see shows and I'd be like, how do they do that? Even though I've been up on stage in like different forms, like talent shows and musical theater. But I think creating like an original piece of music that is your own and vulnerably putting it out there for the world and in front of a live audience to ignore it or love it or hate it, it was really scary to me. And because it scared me is the very reason I did it. And that person at that time that I was dating was like, oh, you shouldn't. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Like kind of like told me I didn't have what it took. Huh. Now I realize because he was terrified that I would eclipse this motherfucker. And and then the last point, I'm 3 pivotal moments was the first as a kid, second with my ex, and the third was with Alice Cooper. I did like this show that somehow randomly I was on. I didn't even try to be on it, but it was one of those experiences where it was like, well, if you're doing a show on VH1, just to say you did it, just do it. And Alice Cooper was like, oh, do you want to, all right, he's like, obviously you're not playing this rock band to the stars. Like, this is like a video game, but what do you want to do? He's like, I see there's like something in you and you should definitely go for it. And I told him the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm terrified. I don't really know what to do. And he's like, well, take it from me, get a gimmick and get a band. And literally the next day I posted an MI ad looking for a band. And that was the third moment in my life that I never looked back. So that's it.
Well, hang on. So you went to a professional rock band contest? What?
Yeah, it was called Rock Band to the Stars. It was actually Guitar Hero. You know that game? Guitar
you
Hero?
Played the shit out of it. There was a show out here in America?
Show on VH1. It was actually Rock Band, the second form of that. So Guitar Hero was the first one, and then Rock Band was like the
full band version.
Full band, yeah. And they found me. I was bartending at a karaoke bar / rock band Guitar Hero bar. And my customers at the time would be like, oh, come up and do a song with me. I only sang. I never even played the instrument. And I guess they were scouting people in the area and they found me and they were like, oh, we want you to be on the show. And I was like, reality TV? Hell no. I was like, no, thank you. But then they were like, oh, it's a paid weekend. It's not like Big Brother. Like you just shoot 2 days. It's a competition. Like we're not here to like try to make anybody like drama. It's nothing like that, which it was true. It was nothing like that. So I did it having no idea who the judges were going to be. And then they were Alice Cooper and Sebastian Bach. And
Sick.
Okay, Seb, come on in.
Sick.
Yeah.
Stryker from K-Rock. He was like the MC of the whole thing.
Oh my God. I'm so glad I didn't research this. This is fucking brilliant, Kat.
I didn't know this, I'll be honest.
This goes way back. This goes pre Holy Wars, pre Pep Squad, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Alice Cooper said, do you want to do this? Like, and he was like, this business is terrible. I don't want my own kids doing it. But he was like, I work with Kelly Clarkson. She's no different than you. Like, you should totally do it if you feel. And it really was that moment where I was like, well, fuck, if Alice Cooper tells you to be a rock star,
yeah, you do it.
Gotta do it. So in that moment, I was like, okay, well, if I do what you say, get a band and all this stuff, like, can I mail you anything? So I met Shep Gordon, and Shep Gordon gave me his address. And he was like, yeah. And Alice Cooper was even like, you're going to write a lot of crap, but when you write something cool, send it to Shep. He's not managing any artists, but maybe he can give you some advice. And he did. Like, I got his mailing address in Hawaii. And many years later, I finally sent him something just to say thank you, like not even wanting anything. I just was like, I did it, what you guys told me to do. So, and all of those steps brought me to Pep Squad. So
that is a wonderful share. Thank you. That is so cool, man. One of my best friends, Boopa Doopy, that's his Twitch name, but he's Alex in real life, is watching over in the UK, and we as middle teenagers played the shit out of Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and far too many 420 step nights where you couldn't quite nail Dragon Force, but we tried. I mean, Alex, that's not fair on you, Alex.
I'll say too, I have one song I wrote that is in Guitar. Well, no, one song I wrote that's in Guitar Hero. So that was a trip. It's the song by this band, Pierce the Veil. And we wrote a song called King for a Day. And it was actually on the demo of Guitar Hero 2. So if you went to Toys R Us, it was one of the 3 games you could play.
Yeah.
So me and my buddy, who's the singer and lead guitar player, we went and filmed ourselves playing it, and truly bombing and like being like, we were so bad at it. And just like in this Toys R Us in Burbank, laughing our asses off, trying to like failing at playing the song we wrote.
Yeah.
But that was also like I realized, I was like, oh wow, this is like a thing. Like this is, yeah.
Did you do a little Toys R Us tour?
No, we didn't. I kept wanting. I was really hoping one of his fans would catch him, just because it was like so hilarious and kind of like embarrassing to be in there. But it was also like, this career is so hard, and when you get any kind of win, even if it's random as hell, you gotta lean in and enjoy it, And that was one of those. I was like, this is so weird and so fun, Yeah. So yeah. So I love those games for the reason. I also love it got kids into music that they wouldn't have known, like Smoke on the Water and Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith and things like that, like songs that they may have heard on classic rock radio with their parents, but instead they like love those songs. Like some of those bands were able to kind of like revitalize their entire career.
It also made me say I never want to listen to Dragon Force because I can't possibly play this.
Yeah.
Was it Through the Fire and Flames that had to be?
Yes, it was.
No,
yes,
God,
it was. My God.
There's literally no, like, that is the most kitchen sink song I've ever heard in my life. Every idea is in that song. There was no idea that was like, nah, I think we're good. It's like, no, we should do that too.
Yeah. It's like an entire career in one 8-minute Colossus.
Yeah.
No,
it rocks.
Well, that's great, Curtis. We'll stay with you then. I mean, that there's so many questions that I'm itching to ask, but I want to just really hold firm on getting the context here because, of course, that guitar band. Oh my God. Okay, and let me just. I'm going to push the metal in my head to later on in the chat. That's later on in the chat.
So 3 things that kind of got me where I am. Is that what the question was?
Yeah, just what inspired you? Yeah, what led to this?
So I was into 2 things when I was a kid. I was into music and I was into sports. So when I was really little, I wanted to be an athlete. And then around 1st grade, I wanted to be in music, and then it switched back. And then when I was 12, I started a band, and then it was music forever. And I started a band called Chicken Jam, which was a Pearl Jam fake name we came up with, and we had all these songs about chickens. And I'm old enough that we were recording a cassette. And then that band turned into a real band, which was called 3 Simple Words. And my buddy that I was talking about from Pierce the Veil, him and I it was us and another friend of ours in the band. And we were like the cool rock band in high school. And and played all the local gigs and played at school and did all that stuff. But it was around 15 that I was just like, it was like done. I was going to do music, game over. Like I got obsessed with the Beatles. I loved Pearl Jam and Nirvana and, and all that stuff. And I was like, you can see that I know that moment because you can watch my grades every moment after that just slowly decrease and sink in them. But my parents were really supportive, and my dad even, I went to community college for 6 months in San Diego, and my dad was like, you got to drop out of school. You want to do music. He's like, so you at least need to chase this because you just failed music theory. You're like, you don't care about school. And so I moved to LA, and the band broke up because my buddy Vic Pierce the Veil ended up getting a record deal he had a punk band side project, which is now Pierce the Veil. They got a record deal. So our band broke up, and I moved to LA. And it was around the time that all the singer-songwriters were happening, the John Mayers and Jason Mrazes and Gavin DeGraw and all that stuff. So I was like, well, I play guitar, and I have an acoustic guitar, and I sang in that style. So I just kind of started doing that genre and toured for a long time like that as myself, as Curtis Peoples, and had a record deal with Warner Music and did the whole thing. And was out there with my acoustic guitar, but always kind of the rock guy. I was always like, I look back and I wish I had just been a rock band from day one, but also like, it's what kind of led me where I ended up. And my career as an artist brought me in with all these great producers and writers, to write for my stuff. And then I secretly was like, not even knowing, I was learning from them about how to write songs for artists. And then a couple things I wrote for other people, Pierce the Veil being one, and some other like pop rock singer songwriter people and whatever, started getting cut and came out and did well. And it was at a point where I was kind of like, you know what, I don't know if I want to be an acoustic singer songwriter. Like, I don't want to do that. So I started to lean in on the songwriting thing, and that kind of took over my career. And I started writing for more bands that were hard rock bands and a lot of pop bands. And weirdly, the band Third Eye Blind, the drummer and I had been friends for a long time, and he brought me in to work with them. And it all happened. Things happen. Not everything happens so poetically, but it happened exactly when it needed to. I definitely was running out of steam doing it the way I was, and I saw a door open as a songwriter. Not ironically, I guess coincidentally, it's what led me to where we are now, because as time has gone on, I was like, you know what, I miss being an artist. So I started to kind of reach out to do more things with a couple of friends, started a couple of projects. And when this thing came along, it was exactly what I wanted to do. I'm still writing for someone else's voice, but it's something I'm involved with. And it's kind of the best of both worlds for what I love to do. And here we are.
He's on the gang vocals though. You guys sing gang.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I still sing, and like in my other project, I sing a little bit, but I really do like this. I like having more creative ownership of something, but still like I like writing for other people to sing. The best part about being a songwriter for other artists, and we all write for other people. The best part is that the color can change, the palette can change, the scenery can change. When you're an artist, even for Pep Squad, we have a good lane, but it's still a lane we got to stay in. But when I'm writing for other people, one day can be country, next day can be EDM, next day can be metal, and that keeps things kind of moving. So it's a blast. But this is the best version, because I still like to get on stage and rock out. So
a quick side note is you can't hear the gardener with the leaf blower outside my window, can you?
We can.
No.
Yeah.
And secondly, just to make clear, I'm not living on some estate of which I have my own gardener. That is the cul-de-sac gardener of the estate that I live in. Just so we're clear.
John, you're so fancy.
No, yeah. That's why I quit commercial radio and started my own company because I own an estate and I never needed the wage of media in the first place. Yes.
I retired into podcasting.
I'm going to retire in my mid-30s into just doing what I do best, talking the shit off of people's. Yeah. Anyway. Curtis, that's awesome. That again opens so many avenues I want to walk down that we'll get to after we get that context from Dan, in the sense, again, as a reminder, Dan, is what was that earliest? My partner is commenting in the chat laughing. Yes, Jody in the room next door with Harley. It's a loud leaf blower. Has anyone ever sampled Harley's back from school? I shouldn't swear so much. Has anyone ever sampled a leaf blower? No, because they're that annoying. Unless the three of you can.
Terrible. You can't make them sound good.
No one's walked into the studio and gone, what we need is we need to get Greg of Dillinger to do some screaming vocal, have him scream against a leaf blower. We'll cover the blower in all flange and God knows what, reverb and delay. No, nothing can make that good. Sorry, I'm just ranting about one of the most pointless things on the planet.
I'm going to take that as a challenge, bro. And I'll sample a leaf blower and put it into the next Pep Squad song. And when I'll send it to you first. And be like, there's the leaf blower. Does it suck or can it stay?
I will hold you to that, Dan, because
I'm in. Let's go.
The way that I go through songs is I'll listen to them 30 times. And the initial intrigue. So that's what I've done with Rebel and Trouble when they first came out, is I'll listen to it. I've come across it. I might be typing or emailing, and then I'll go, okay, fuck, I like this. So I'll dive in and then break it down. Every time I'm listening, I'm going from lyrics to vocal to BV to BV2 to BV3 to gang, guitar 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why what I love about how you've constructed your songs is that there's so much hidden metal in it. There's so much hidden metal in it. And I'll say it a third time. There's so much hidden metal in it. But we'll get to that. Dan, earliest memory of inspiration when it comes to music and you going, oh man, I got to do this?
So my first memory of music is I was probably 3 years old dancing around to Michael Jackson's Thriller. And I would bug my parents constantly. And they had the vinyl. They still have that original one to put it on over and over and over again. But then, moving forward, I think the musical groups and the genres that probably define a lot of my style and a lot of like production wise what I do, and probably my fucking personality also, are NSYNC, Limp Bizkit, Fall Out Boy, Bring Me the Horizon, and Under Oath. Those are like probably some of the top ones that have stuck out. I mean, I've done everything musically, from being in a boy band to singing in a metal band to tap dancing in a fucking high school musical.
Oh my God.
I've got a music minor in classical trombone from a pretty sweet trombone music school.
Oh my
God. So I knew really quickly that I wanted to do music, because when I originally, everyone wants to be a professional skateboarder, but when you go from being 5'8" to 6'1" in a period of like 8 months, you're gangly, you're awkward. Of course, you end up breaking bones. And it's like, you know what? That's something's telling me that music is going to be the less painful, maybe, way of going about it. And I knew from when I was like 14 or 15 that this was something I really wanted to pursue very passionately and just really dive headfirst into it. So I did everything music that I possibly could. And another one of my skills, I think, is being able to rope people together. I was always the kid in high school or even elementary school. When we learned to play our instruments, I was like, all right, so you're a drummer, you're a bass player, I play trombone. We're a band, right? We never actually do anything, but I was always kind of making up these little fake imaginary groups since I can remember, and have continued to try to create some ideas and just rope in the homies, because the collaborative part of what we do is the best part of what we do. And the friendships that you make in making music that you think is cool is, something that like I really value. And I'm glad to be able to sit with these two and just create shit that we like, and then talk about it and spread it around, and just come together as a little community.
How did you end up with the trombone first?
I wanted to play drums, but I was tall and I had long arms, so the teacher was like kind of pressured me into it. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, fine, I guess. But I became really good at it really fast, and just kind of stuck with it for a while.
Yeah. All of our dogs are coming in, all of our animals.
Mine's right next to me, yeah.
Right.
He was scratching at the door, and I was like, he's not going to stop. I'm just going to put him in here.
Well, maybe if I quickly change my camera angle, you'll see that I've got a cat sleeping literally. I saw him.
Well, it's funny because Cat, I heard my cat yelling, and then I saw you grab your dog, and I was like, oh, there we go.
Oh, I didn't realize that the cat had his own access to the Zoom to be pissed off by the dog. That's incredible. They're alert. Dan, I was going to say, yeah, because I mean, when I was a kid and I always wanted to do drums, and it was like, no. But then when I was at elementary school, the equivalent, and there was a big music fair, and it's like, okay, I must have picked up 30, 40 different instruments. I don't think you would do that in the last 24 months, have a music fair in such a fashion, but it ended up being the trumpet that I guess I blew like a mid C out of, and then everyone went, "Oh my God, no one's ever got that note out of this instrument before," and makes you feel really special when you're 6 years old, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm a virtuoso. I've got to get into trumpet, mum, forever." And then into my teenage years, then I'd said that if when I eventually get into radio, I would do two things. I'd start a record collection, and I'd buy myself a flipping awesome huge drum kit. I mean, I ended up going to a performing arts school when I was 15 to 18 and doing musical theatre and media and music technology mainly. And that was where then I decided, you know what, I am going to drum, even though I was surrounded by people. I mean, I'm cognizant, I say this every time, of the wonderful people that support me through listening to the podcast and whatwasthatradio.com. They might have heard this, some of my OGs, 100 times over, which is that when I went to this performing arts school, my family were homeless. My grandparents were paying for it. And that was because I had been this theatrical kid since I was 5, 6 years old, copying all the different Jim Carrey and Robin Williams voices on TV and always trying to do different accents and Winnie the Pooh and any TV show I saw, because I had interesting, horrible things happen as a kid. And that was my release, was how can I find, not from any of my family members, but how could I find who I was? And so I went through all these different voices I tried to copy and be, and all these different personalities. And like Kurtz was saying, you know, I'm really into Pearl Jam and the Nirvanas. Well, I went through everything. I went through my emo phase of Thrice and The Used and etc. I went to my more, okay, well, let's go more Chino and Deftones, some of my favorite bands that are tattooed down there. Went through my prog rock style. I went through everything. And when I went to this school, to come back round to my point, is that I was surrounded by the kids of some of the most famous bands in English history. Some of the kids that were in Iron Maiden or Queen or Black Sabbath. And there I am in my uncle's hand-me-down clothes. And there they are in their Gucci. And I was like, something's not adding up here. But in turn, after 5, 6 months of getting confident with being around and actually learning who these people were, and that, yes, the name might carry some weight, but once you know, it's not the same. Once you make a connection, it's not the same. And I learned, I think it was Curtis saying earlier as well, that you didn't realize, maybe looking back, yes, you could have just been in a rock band, but at the same time, that's where the fucking growth came from, is being in those circumstances. And so for me, being around these kids and being like, well, could you teach me that Clash beat? Could you teach me that Thin Lizzy beat? And that's how I went about doing that. And even Boopa Doopy Alex, who's in the chat right now, can think back 17 years to like, oh my God, yeah. And that's where my sort of drumming started after all those years of yearning to do it. Now that we've got all the context here and you've got a little bit more about me, that's what I find, that's the biggest thing that I find fascinating so far, is that the shackles are off. You three have been through very different journeys of growth. You come out the end of that and gone, I know what I want to do right now. And then bam, Pep Squad has been born. How do we start divulging and explaining the difference in the freeing of this product and this band? Because if you've written all these songs, Curtis and Dan and Kat, you're writing songs for other people. If we focus in on that one thing, now you're writing for yourself. I find it intriguing, Kat, that you said 25-ish minutes ago that people are going, oh, is this Holy Wars or Pep Squad? They're both fierce in their own right. But then if we focus with you first, maybe, what is the difference between a lyrical adventure when it comes to Holy Wars and Pep Squad?
Well, you know, I think both of them are an evolution. I feel like early Holy Wars was more about my personal loss of my parents, and that was like my therapy. And that band only existed because of that time. And if I never went through that, I don't think I would have had that. I wouldn't have met Curtis. You know, it's so crazy how every step you take really does
everything
to where you are. So I think, you know, the lyrics are a little bit in Holy Wars are a little bit more darker, I would say, even though people would probably say like, well, Pep Squad's darker. But I think Pep Squad's darkness is more like kind of like empowerment in a way, or like having an attitude where
there's a little bit of fantasy to our thing. You know, it's a little more of a fantasy, where I feel like Holy Wars is more from your voice and your experience.
Right. Exactly. You know? Yeah. And I would say even like the newer stuff with Holy Wars, because again, a lot of it, you know, does come from the growth I've made in Pep Squad. Like, unfortunately, it's my voice. So it's like, you know, that it's going to blend a little bit, whether I'm trying to or not. But those, I think I tend to get a little bit more metaphorical. in Holy Wars, I do like, there are sometimes like I guess some things are a little bit more weird in Holy Wars, and sometimes I try to make that weirdness come over to Pep Squad, which most of the time we do, because the three of us like it weird, but we sometimes, if it's a certain song that we're writing, that we're writing for like a picture, or it's meant to be paired with something, then we do tend to like run it by our label. And sometimes we'll even very early on, not with Rebel and Trouble, but some other songs that had not even been released yet, we'll hear them be like, it's a little, can you be a little bit more, like it's a little bit too left of center, So sometimes I do try to like make the Holy Wars sound come to Pep Squad, but I also like that it is separate enough, because then I feel like today I'm putting on my Pep Squad hat, today I'm putting on Holy Wars, and then it is two very different sides of me. And performance, I think, is the most difference of all, where kind of like I was saying, like I could just say the most on the nose how I feel thing in Pep Squad, and it's cool. Like it's like in some aspect of Holy Wars, I'd probably be like, oh, should I say this? But it's just, it really is like if I read some of the lyrics, but like with the performance of what I'm doing and what the guys are doing, even the simplest lyrics sounds really cool. And so many of our Holy Wars fans love Pep Squad, and because it's all very blending, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answered your question, but it's different and similar all at the same time. Everything
that an artist shares is an answer, because, sometimes when you ask a question, it's almost like you're setting up the exact answer you're going to get. I'm quite happy with it being a collective of words that come out of my mouth and then turn into something not at all what I was trying to get to, because at the same time, I'm still getting what I'm after, which is I'm learning about the person that made the art.
How did you just phrase that? I really like that. You said everything an artist says is an answer.
I feel like sometimes everything that an interviewer asks it's already got the answer in it.
Yeah, I like
that's
that.
Not verbatim, but I mean, that's just what I've learned. That's what's so freeing for me. So, and trust me, this clicks back to you. But this is why I call these things a conversation, because you've all been through the process in the last, I'm going to guess, 10 to 15 years of being a creator, where you've got 5 minutes, you've got 10, or you've got 30. Then it boils down on who are you speaking to, what network, what radio station, what etc. Then it boils down to what's the main thing you're servicing right now. Then it boils down. Then it boils down to, right. You see where I'm going? It's so finite that it can become so constricted, and thus it's not comfortable. And when things are comfortable, that's when you truly connect with people. So the reason why I call this a conversation the reason why I ask for an hour, and in some cases they go 2 hours. It depends on the artist. It depends on you feeling that you've made a connection with me, and feeling that you want to share what you want to share. And it's something that does come up a lot in these chats, because I feel that there's an expectation that just by proxy of me, interviewer, you artist, you owe me. You don't owe me shit. You don't owe me shit. I got to show you that you can consider sharing through respect and transparency communication. Simple as that. So that's why I give a little bit about me in between when I get inspired for my next question, because I feel that you need the placement of that in order to then approach what I'm going to ask. Because Kat, there's no wrong answer here is my answer to your question to get to that point a long way around. Because what
I'll say for all of us too, something about Pep Squad, and maybe I could speak for the guys, and why this is so different and important to me than even like the other projects I'd be in, is that this is like a project for all people, where like Holy Wars came from my personal story, my personal growth. But that's also why we also make our identities not so like it's about me all the time. Like we make it like a comic book world. We kind of want this project to feel as if somebody picked up a comic book and they're reading a story that they actually identify with. So kind of like the Gorillas, like we wanted this project to be bigger than us. So it's like, it's not like you're falling in love with like, oh, I love Curtis, or I love Dan, or I love Kat. It's literally like the whole picture is the star. It's not about any one of us individually, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely, yes.
I think that's a part of the reason why it can feel so free, is because we've talked about this individually as Pep Squad has gained some steam and started to release more music. Inevitably you're going to start somewhere that's fun and start to take it much more seriously. Mm-hmm. And we always try to bring it back to that first intention of, we just wanted to do something that was fun, and we wanted to do something that was bigger than ourselves. And we wanted to be able to say things that were a little more ridiculous. Whereas the intention behind some art and a lot of art is you do it out of necessity. You have to say something that's been weighing on you. You have to get your feelings out. You have to use it as something therapeutic. And while Pep Squad has some of that, that wasn't the initial reason why we started this. We wanted to do something that could be grand and could be fun. And we all push each other and don't have any problem saying anything to each other, and also exploring different genres of music and different creative ideas. And like nothing is off the table here. And that allows us to just feel so relaxed in doing something that's a little bit silly sometimes, kind of badass sometimes. You know, we can kind of do anything we want, and it feels really good to be in that position and to be with creators that, you know, you trust with your silly ideas.
Yeah, we really just want to give a feeling. That's kind of what this project is. It's to give a feeling to the listener versus our personal story. Though all of our personal stories play a huge part into it, because we're saying the things we want to say to blow off the steam or just have fun. But I always think about the audience being the most important person in this whole band than us.
But that's what's so fascinating, Curtis and Dan and Kat. I'm not rudely leaving you out, but you did address this a few moments ago. But that's what I found so fascinating is, yes, I've made a wealth of friends that have all had to go to LA. They feel they've got to go to LA. They've got to be in there working, grinding, just everything. And Curtis, you were saying earlier, you know, one day it's country, next song it's EDM, next song it's this, next song it's that. That's what it fascinates me about this project, is that you've all, the three of you have come together because you've got experience in that realm. Yeah. And can you break down for me how you go about even trying to get yourself in that mode each day? Because it's so different. And then how that contrasts with how you go about, oh, fuck, it's Pep Squad day.
I think a lot of it comes down to, well, I know for myself, the longer I've worked, you know, you're not going to write a great song with everybody. You know, like you can put Paul McCartney and Ed Sheeran in a room together, and they may write a really lame song, you know. Or there might be, there's with talent, when you've got talent, there's like a place where it really doesn't go below anymore once you learn how to do it. But like, it's not a guarantee. So for me, when the chemistry has locked in with the certain people, either the band, a few of the bands I've worked with, a few of the artists I've worked with, or stuff like this, when you're around long enough, you stop taking it for granted, because it's very, very, very hard to find people you click with. So what's great though about writing different genres and things like that is that you're never bored, you know, or truthfully, you can repurpose ideas or repurpose, or if you're a fan of something, because that's the big thing for me. It's like walking into the room, whether you love a band that you work with, or you love the kind of song that we're going to write, you know, when we write a song in day, you got to find a reason to be a fan of it. Or what does it remind you of? Like a lot of time when I work with a band, I'll go listen to their stuff and I'll be like, oh my God, okay, this reminds me of 9 Inch Nails and it reminds me of Depeche Mode. So I don't even know if this 22-year-old likes those bands or knows those bands, but that's what I'm going to bring into this thing. And for us, we've all had enough experience, and you know, we're adult rockers. and what's great though is that we can kind of walk in and carry these influences. And what's exciting when it's people you have chemistry with is you always walk in with a sense of confidence. You don't walk into it wondering if the day is going to go well or not. You just kind of wonder, how well is it going to go today? Like, is today the day we write Rebel, or is this today just a hash it out kind of idea day? But there's always a chance that it's going to be special. And I think that what we have is that, and I feel very fortunate, because that makes it so that every idea, even if it doesn't work, you swing as hard as you can. And because of that, that's how we get, I believe, really great shit, is because we are fearlessly attacking these ideas, even when they may be questionable.
And you know, it's cool because we have no problem telling each other, like, because like we'll write Rebel, or we'll have this other weird song we have coming up called Little Game, and you know, sometimes I'll be like, lyrically I'll be like, no, that's not it, or melody, like Curtis's, he's got a hook melody, you know. So we have this trust within each other that like, if we don't like it, there's none of this like tiptoeing, like, like, oh, can I tell you that I don't like it? We're just like, no, that sucks. You know, like it's really like a family. And so I think that's a big part of it because we know no matter what, it's going to be great. But
yeah. And Dan's kind of,
and there's a lot of different tests that it has to pass.
Yeah. And Dan being the producer and the mixer and you know, and kind of like overseer of the tracks.
I don't know about that.
but I mean like you're the last person to press the buttons.
I'm the button guy. Yeah.
But Dan allows every idea to be tried, and that I know for myself, and I'm sure for Kat too, that makes it so that your brain is always wide open.
There are ideas too that we have tried where in the back of my head I was like, no way. And we try it, and sure enough, I'm ready to tell everybody that I was super wrong. That idea is so sick.
Our next single is one of my favorite tracks Dan did, and I know you, because you said it, you were very weary about the idea, which was to go to do this I
didn't understand the song.
Pharrell meets Missy Elliott meets Pep Squad. And we're all so excited about it. We just shot a video for it 2 weeks ago. Before we got on with you, we were texting, finalizing the artwork. We're very excited about it, but it's definitely new for us, and it is wonderfully quirky and weird.
Talk about having trust in a group. I honestly didn't really get the song. I don't want to say I didn't like it, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. And I did not get the song until I showed up to the music video and saw the set and saw the dancers and saw the whole thing. And I was like, oh shit, this song is sick. Cool. It finally made sense to me. I was able to like step outside of the experience of like grinding through and making it. It took me a minute to figure it out. And when the video comes out, all of a sudden, like the song clicks. And I'm very proud of the song and very proud of the video and like super stoked for it to come out in the top of the year.
And Curtis, just to backtrack, you said something meets Missy Elliott meets Pep Squad. What was
Pharrell meets Missy Elliott meets Pep Squad?
Right. Okay.
It's got this minimalistic hip hop track with the Pep Squad energy and vocals, and it's very cool. It's Kat and I especially have been like obsessed with it, and also. It's fun because it opens up another avenue for us now, and actually songs that are coming behind it now will feel even more at place because of this song opening another door for us. So it's cool. Well, that's the fun of this whole thing, is that it still sounds like Pep Squad. It's just we're figuring out ways to tell our story in little different colors, and you know.
Well, and it's growing as it goes. I mean, but at the same time, that's why I want to dive into this element, as Kat was alluding to about 15 minutes back, about that comic book element side of it. I adore the artwork. I love it. So,
thank you.
Dan, I think with you seeing the set, it's like now you're seeing the whole mise en scène come together. You're seeing it's the journey of the story of the song, not necessarily just when you've been in that room, which might be the room you're in right now, for hours and hours and hours, listening and tweaking and going over it, just hiding those secret metal guitars at the bottom of your mix that you do in every single song so well. And so, Kat, what do you want to speak to? No, we can't address that song because that's coming out next year. We'll approach that when it's out there. But for me, I would love to dive into It's My Party, Watch Me, Rebel and Loser. I feel that we've kind of gone with Rebel and Loser throughout the chat so far. So what's an example of tying in the design and the comic book element? And I'm presuming, Curtis, when you went thank you, that maybe you've got a bit to do with the artwork there. What is this going to lead to? I spoke with a great band, actually, that I was going to tell you about at the end of the chat, called Calva Louise, who were a three-piece, one member from Venezuela, moved to Europe to chase a dream, meets a guy from France. They go to England, and they're one of the most exciting indie rock bands, so quirky, which is a favorite word of mine. Curtis, note to you saying that not long ago.
Yeah.
And Calva Louise, actually, let me grab it from above my desk.
We need vinyl.
They for their record Rhinoceros, all the music videos are all animated. Alison always wanted to, no, Jess, sorry. They're all so creative, but Jess always wanted to get into doing comic and design. And so she set herself a task of, well, I'm going to fucking music video my own animated story for the whole record and then put it into a book that became that. So you can read along to the lyrics as you listen to the song.
Woo.
Which is such a great way of consuming an entire album.
Wow.
That's a goal, man.
We have a guy named Simon that Dan found who's kind of become like a silent member of this band, visually speaking.
Simon Mulligan, yeah.
Yeah, he's from the UK. So
that rings a bell. Let me Google that. Yeah, sorry, Kat, continue.
Definitely look him up, man. His artwork is unbelievable. His Instagram is great. He's got tons of awesome illustrations and visual VFX stuff that he's diving into now. The guy's crazy talented.
But like my dream for this project and the attempt of making this project bigger than us is I want this to be like a comic book, because this like punk rock cheerleader, which side note was the original name of this project. Yep. It was called Punk Rock Cheerleader. But then it landed on Pep Squad, which we all think was better. It was like, it had a better ring to it. But we defined the sound as Punk Rock Cheerleader. And I really want this to be a comic book of some like ratchet punk rock cheerleader anti-hero. Like, I don't know. That's my dream one day, where Simon creates this whole world. So I love to see that another band did that, because I think it's so cool. Like, you give the fans like an added element that is bigger than the music. So
well,
it's also sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, just quickly, Kurt, it's in a day and age as well where people just maybe haven't got the time or the will or don't give a shit about going through an entire record. And what I liked about this was that when it came in the mail, I sat down and I put the record on, and I listened to it through, and I read it through, and I was there for 43 minutes until it was done. And then that's right. So I just think it's a really clever and effective way of doing that. Booper Doopy said in the chat, Coed and Cambria have done this for years with action figures in their magazines. And that's one of our favorite bands that we bonded over many years back as kids. So yeah, Curtis, you were saying.
Oh yeah, well, I was saying, as far as the where we've gone with the artwork too, is that, it has come from us a lot too, but it is one of those things. We found 2 or 3 people so far that we've worked with, and now even the guy who directed our video, Frey, that it's kind of the same thing with the band, but with artists too, like Simon Mulligan, Rupert, I forgot what his last name was, Rupert, I have it right here. I was going to not mess it up. Rupert Gruber, Alex Strickland. We have a couple artists that we work with that get us. And if we go to them and be like, this is the idea, and when you say the idea, and somebody might just be like, I don't know what you're saying, but these guys get it. So like when we go to Simon, we go to Alec, we go to Rupert, or whoever we go to, and we give them our idea, they understand it, which allows us to create these insane things and come up with another insane thing. Because they're like, okay, if you understood that, then you're definitely going to get this, and that is how the Rebel video ended up really working. That's how the new Little Game video ended up working, is that we had people that understood where we wanted it to go. And then we have enough trust in each other to kind of, keep it where, keep pushing it forward. And we have a supportive label and company that works with us, the company Lyric House, that has helped us with this. Like, they're on our side, and it makes it very easy. We don't try to like spend a ton of money, but when there's something worth doing, having label support that allows you to do it properly is everything. Because my whole thing was shooting music videos, and I said this on the first one, less on the second one but I never want an indie video to look like an indie video. I want it, like, as much as you can smoke and mirrors it and make it look like it should be right after, a huge successful band's music video, and it can stand on its own next to it, the better. Obviously, if a band has $300,000 and we have $3,000, it's a massive difference, but we still feel like if we work with the right people, and that we can get something special. And we've gotten lucky. Like, all these guys, Simon and everybody, are bringing insane amounts of talent. We're just lucky enough to find them before we can't afford them anymore.
Yeah.
But that in itself, Dan, that opens a door to an interesting question, which is in the sense of all the labels that you've worked with, the three of you collectively across these years. Now with Pep Squad, you're able to say, well, what are you able to say? When that conversation started, did they come to you from connections? Did you go to them? And then what did you iron out with them? Because surely you want to make sure that the three of you still have that freedom to create on your own terms.
Right. And that's kind of how Pep Squad was created. It started as initially conversations with me and Jess, the owner of Lyric House, we were just talking about things that we liked and talked about music that we thought was missing. And when the band is kind of created with the label head, because you're talking about common interests and things that get you excited, you know that you're in a good support system right off the bat. If you have to go out and reach out to a label and sell yourself to a label, I always kind of feel like you're at a disadvantage right away, because you're looking up, you're reaching up for something. If a label comes to you and offers you an unbelievable deal, then yeah, sure, take it. But right now, because we're experienced, we've been doing this for a long time, we know a lot of people in the industry, you don't need to sell your soul away. You just need to find people that you connect with creatively, and more importantly, on a friendship level, and just try to make something that you're really excited about. And that's really what Pep Squad is. And that's kind of how it started.
It's a team effort too.
Yeah, it is.
Everyone brings their own connections and their own friends and experiences. Even down to our music video just now, everyone brought somebody in from their world to make that video happen, and that is kind of the wonderful thing about it. It's like, like Kat was already friends with Frey and had worked with him a bunch, so she vouched for him, and then Dan and I knew some people that did something else to help with the video, and then this guy was helping with the artwork and this thing, and like everyone's bringing their own collective experiences in, and then I trust them, so anybody they suggest is always going to be cool, and vice versa, and that just makes it easy. You're like, okay, you worked with this guy, oh, you're friends with him, then I have no worries. And that has thankfully been so far worked out just fine.
That's the one thing you worry about as you start to expand the team of people around you is, are you going to get noted to death? Is everyone going to start getting nitpicky? Are you going to start watering something down because there's suddenly a couple more eyeballs on it? And we've been really lucky that hasn't happened at all. We've almost been given more freedom to do what we really want to do, and have just been given this unconditional support from Jess and the homies at Lyric House. And yeah, like Curtis said, whenever we bring somebody into our world, we're collecting these unbelievably talented people. We just have crazy faith that they know what they're doing. And if you're a visual artist, you for sure know better than me at how you're going to make it look cool. So I trust you, man. Go for it. You're going to get maybe one note from all of us combined, if any.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I've been growing and battling with during the last 13 months of What Was That, is knowing what I wanted to build in my own mind and feeling that, I mean, this station was born for me out of a lust to keep growing, in that I'd had a great 10 years of commercial radio, had been fortuitously very successful here on the west coast of Canada. I mean, I moved from England 12 years ago to Vancouver, Ireland. So,
oh, cool, Vancouver.
I'm just a little bit above you lot right now, but I didn't feel that I was getting the chance to give as much as I wanted to give. And so in the early months of What Was That starting, I had a lot of people reaching out and saying, oh, I wish it was like this, or can you tweet that, or can you do that? And I know where I'm going, I know what I'm leading myself to, but I also want to make sure that I fall over a bunch and grow along the way of my YouTube classes of learning how to be better at Photoshop now, and be better at Premiere Pro now, and be better at photography now, blah, 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 just to get all these little bits together. And building the Twitch stream is very, very simple to someone 15 years younger than me. But to me, it took a few days to fucking figure it out and make sure that it was the best it could be. And even then, things are still throwing sideways at you, and you've got to deal with it each day. And more lessons appear when you didn't know you needed more. But my question being is that there's still got to be a moment where, even though Daniel's saying there's not necessarily nitpicking or note taking, there's still got to be a moment where someone's like, but what about this way though? And then how do you respond to that with the safety net of the respect you've all got amongst yourselves? There's got to be a moment where that gets tested.
It's a democracy, like there's definitely been a couple times where one person wasn't as on board with something. And so we had a conversation, and a couple times that had us switch gears and try something else, because we would never want to force one person into an idea they hate. And a couple other times it's just been like, hey, we think the other two might be like, hey, we think this is going to work, can you trust us? And for the most part, that's been the case. But we've definitely had moments where one or two of us don't get it, or the label doesn't get it, or or some combination of that. But the good thing about being adult rockers is that you talk it out, and you don't harbor it and just let it fester into something terrible.
Nobody takes any of it personally. We're all willing to put in the time to try the ideas, because at the end of the day, a really good idea is going to completely turn the room around, and everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we pushed and pushed it. Of course it gets frustrating when you don't find the idea right away, but we know that we'll get there. We mm-hmm. know that if someone doesn't like an idea, it doesn't mean they don't like me. They just think the idea at that moment kind of sucks. And if a lot of people don't like it, it probably did. And that's totally cool. It's you get to this, like, of course you're tested, but you get to this almost Zen-like state of creating when you've been doing it for so long. Like your feelings can't be hurt all that badly after getting beaten down for 15 years.
Yeah, it's when I think sorry, Kat.
Oh no, I was going to say, I think, we have, I mean, knock on wood, we have no issues in this band ever. Probably because we are the adult rockers, and we've done it. Any ego that we would have had is probably long in our past, because we have had to, kind of work through it all through rejection. We've all been rejected how many times in this business? Mm-hmm. Me being a female all the time. But I think our biggest struggle, not that anybody asked, but I think it's important to say, is schedules, really, because we all have other things that we're doing. And we always say, like, man, if we put, like, Curtis always makes this joke, if we only had this band right now, we would be touring all over the world at this point. And we still feel like we could, we could do that. But because we are doing so many different things, I say that, to me, in my opinion, is the biggest challenge in this project. And me personally, there's this meme, Kermit the Frog, that's like this, and Curtis is a cat, because I literally go from 1,000 things, and we call Curtis dad of this project, because he keeps us, me especially. I think Dan does not need any of the wrangling, but Curtis always kind of wrangles me, and he's like, okay, Kat, this is what we're doing today. We're ready. And then even though he's told me 3 times, I'm still like, okay, what are we doing today, guys? So I think it's important to say that, though we have so much great things we can say about this project, but every project comes with challenges, and our biggest challenge is the scheduling. And because we are in different parts, and we all have different commitments in different bands and dad life. And so, yeah, that's a real honest answer.
Yeah, she's right. She's right. That's the biggest challenge. Yeah.
I'm glad you shared that. I mean, that clicks in too nicely when you were speaking with grimygoods.com, Kat, about when you're creating now in the pandemic, and it's different. You used to all dive into a room and just shoot the shit and see what you could create. And then you have to do it in a more zoomy way, like we're all chatting right now. So what was that like, creating? How many songs have you created in that realm?
Well, you brought up It's My Party, and that was a good example, because that was the first thing we did when the pandemic hit. And that was the hardest one. And thankfully, it was the only one that felt hard. Because we hadn't done any Zoom sessions. Most people hadn't, unless there was a random thing, an overseas thing or whatever. And so even though we were so close, it was hard to write that way. And then we were asked to do this cover of It's My Party. And, especially for me, because I'm not the producer and I'm not the singer, I'm somewhere in between in the writing and the guitar playing and, helping with production, etc. I remember Dan, being sweet as he is, knew I felt kind of at a loss of what to do within that song. But after that one, I realized, I was like, we just have to treat this normal and pretend like this isn't weird that we're talking over this thing and working this way. So now we've written about 8 songs this way. A number of them being some of our most successful, like The Huntress and things like that. And it was easy. It did not feel weird, and it got easy. What's great is things got better. Like Kat and I both being in LA, and Dan just moved. So Kat can come to my studio and do vocals. She can do vocals at her own studio. And then the couple times where Dan was in town, we were able to kind of make that work. So we have options, but the good thing is the workflow just got so much just normal in a very abnormal time. And so, yeah. It just was much easier to pull off.
My party goes super metally, and I love it.
Oh yeah, and I love that that's gotten 2 or 3 TV show placements and stuff, because it's just what turned out was so cool with that one.
Yeah.
But how does that look then? If you're how do you actually do that? Is because I know my friend Mike Battle, who like edits this podcast, and he was recording with his band Poor Sport during lockdown. I think with Jesse Gander in Vancouver. And there was a program he was telling me about that I terribly forget right now, that meant that the latency issues they had when you're trying to be live and blah, 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 blah. There was something they could use. How did you actually...
Audio movers,
yeah.
So how did the three of you actually set that up to do that? What, 2 in 1 studio or all in separate? How do you get technical, get nerdy with me?
We've done it a combination of different ways. Usually being the button pusher, I'll come up with a couple ideas prior to the session. We'll have a discussion about, maybe we can go this way. And I'll come up with a couple track start ideas, spend an hour on each one. And then just stream them live. They could be together in one studio. They could be in separate studios. And I'll just be streaming what I've got up on my Pro Tools rig. We'll pick one and start to write to it and send. It can be as chaotic as just sending voice notes back and forth.
Or sometimes I'll track guitars or something and send them to Dan,
But we all have the ability. And that's the great thing about someone as a producer in my position is everyone who sings was forced to learn how to record themselves and learn how to do it pretty well. So everybody that I work with, even if it is remote 100% of the time, everyone can record themselves and send voice notes or send a quick demo. And then we'll just constantly refine. And because of my studio situation in LA, during the height of the pandemic, I have a control room and then I have a separate booth. They have separate entrances. So me and Kat have been in the same situation, but completely isolated from one another. So when we were worried about that vaccine wasn't a thing, we could record and just write in the same room, completely isolated, and it ended up being really productive and as if nothing was changing. The funniest part was when we were writing, we were recording a vocal. Curtis had to go down to San Diego, so he had an Audio Movers link on his phone in his car, texting us notes on the vocal takes as he was driving down to San Diego. So, dude, we've named a situation. We've kind of done it, and
the nerdiest we've gotten was that too. Even like recording it when I was at home, we were all separate from each other. And remember, you guys were on the Audio Movers link while FaceTiming. You were FaceTiming my boyfriend Nick, being like, "Okay, can you tell Kat to try it this way?" Like we've gone really like technical. So we've done it in person, and we've done it so
far away.
Yeah. It's a technology. It was like we did. It was a little more difficult, but not that much. We made it work. So I forgot what song was done like that, but I think it's one of our release songs where
maybe Set It Off or one of those. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, as I said, grimygoods.com is where I saw the quote from Kat about the It's My Party. And in that quote, it says it was the first one that you'd done remotely. To quote you, it said, in the flow with getting us writing together over Zoom sessions, which was definitely challenging at first. Previously, writing for Pep Squad had always been in the room, 3 of us vibed out sort of thing. We decided to create something to get back in the flow. So, and then you went on to talk about how you loved going to car shows, Kat, and winning hula hoop contests for a free kids meal at Roy Rogers. Is that true, Kat?
I was a sweet little kid. Oh yeah.
Did Alice Cooper judge that contest too?
What was that?
Was Alice Cooper the judge on that contest too, or someone?
No, it was not, unfortunately. And also that show on VH1, it's Rock Band 2, the number 2, The Stars. And because they didn't have any of our real names, I don't know why, but I was Shades of Grey on there. I have
Shades of Grey.
You can find it on YouTube, but
oh god, that's great.
Yeah, I was so competitive. It's been my greatest attribute, my biggest downfall is I've been so competitive since I was a kid that I remember I have a nemesis everywhere. I swear to God. Like I had a nemesis at like 6 years old over hula hoops. I'm like, I'm going to beat her. It was like, so let's just say those Roy Rogers free kids meal contest was like, I was out for blood for that cheeseburger. So.
Well, good for you. Yeah, I don't know. I
only won once. I did it many times. I only won once.
That reminds me of being a kid, Kat, and seeing someone like you across from me on the field of a contest and being very intimidated. Yeah, very intimidated.
Faster and faster.
If you want the Rice Krispies bar, you can go and win the egg and spoon race, Neil. No one's going to get in your way. That's me 25 years ago. I will not trip him.
I've gotten lesser in my adult years, but I think I've just gotten more competitive and more ratchet. So now I sing about it.
No,
that's where I got off my steam.
Brilliant. Now, cognizant of the time, it has been over an hour and 10 minutes. Are we good for another 10, 15 or so, or do you want to go?
Hit the road soon,
yeah, 10, 15 is good.
Okay, lovely. Yeah. Because it's been delightful, but I do want to focus in a little bit on, well, I guess with Watch Me, really. Watch Me, and we've talked about It's My Party. We've addressed the first two. Yeah, those were the four that I mainly just wanted to dive into, because this is the thing, and Dan, we've reached that part of the conversation now. Well, all three, Kat, Curtis, Dan, we've reached the metal part of the conversation.
Let's get it.
So I just adore that there are clearly moments in every song where you've got that extra guitar that stands out. And, this might have a little bit of a chug like a metal, but you hide a lot of them, but they in turn formulate this incredible foundation and bass that is what galvanizes me so much, because it draws upon so many different things that I'm into. I mean, What Was That is a modern alternative discovery station. So you're going to hear your usual suspects of rock and roll, but you're going to hear an awful lot more of bands that, like, again, going back to that lust of keep growing. We're all, from what I'm gathering, we're all familiar with Nirvana and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. And when I first backpacked to this country years ago, I loved that in Canada, they seemed to have a more particular genre breakdown of stations. It wasn't an all like BBC Radio 1, and you go pop throughout the day and you've got your specialty shows in the evening. There were just rock, just pop, just modern. But for me, as a Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, a Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden, these are songs you play once a week, not 3-4 times a day. Because you've got to make sure you've got that space for your Pep Squads, for your Combos, for your Kikapichis, for your Cal Louises, for a bunch of bands that I'll email you after this chat that I think you've got to know about.
I'd love to.
And so I love the fact that you draw upon 2 or 3 different genres, but it's got that foundation of, whose cat was that? Was that my cat or your cat?
That's my dog. Give me 2 seconds. Let me let him.
Okay, he's got to go for a bathroom. Curtis.
Turns out we're Pet Squad. Hey.
There we go. Hey, it's a merch one-off t-shirt. There's only 50 and they're $3,000 each. Get on it. Okay. So Kat and Curtis, before I just start talking for the sake of it, but that's what I adore about it. Was this a conscious decision to have that growl in it? Was it a joke?
It was. I think we all have a hard rock thing. Dan, and I love metal, but Dan definitely loves metal, and so I think even in his guitar playing, there is that metal kind of like very specific kind of like battering ram kind of rhythm to the way he plays riffs and the riffs he comes up with. It's not blues driven at all, which I like. There's for this band, that I believe is the balance of what makes it work, is because our drums are hip hop, so everything has a swing to it, and Dan's done a ton of hip hop. But musically it does live more in a metal place guitar wise. And so I think when you say it's kind of hidden, it's because the Cat's, punk rock, hip hop vocal, and the drums are front forward in the sound. But really the thing that's making it evil is a lot of the guitar work and a lot of the sinister riffing that's happening.
Yeah, a lot of that. I mean, a lot of the things you're hearing in the order that you're hearing them in when you listen through it a couple times is pretty intentional. Where I started as a trombone player, then became a drummer, and was all into 311 and Incubus and Red Hot Chili Peppers. So you got some of that hip hop drum background, and then when like the dubstep thing happened, those drum sounds to me were just like, holy shit, I didn't know you can make an electronic drum kit feel kind of real. And then admittedly, I'm not that great of a guitar player. I'm barely passable. So a lot of
You're
the
a great
riffs,
editor.
I can edit like hell. So a lot of the ideas and a lot of the riffs just happen because of a complete limited ability. Like that's all I can do. I can't play with a lot of feel, so I just try to use the percussive element to it to get heavy, and that's a lot of the foundation. Sonically, to me, feels like if it has a couple of those elements in some order, we can make it sound like us pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, that's kind of the sound now, because like we've even had like Nick from Holy Wars like do a couple of some riffs, because
like, he can actually play his ass off. He puts me to shame.
He no, but he like he says this thing even in our project, which is a compliment to you, Dan, where he's like, you kind of have to play like you don't know how to play. Like that's kind of like a cool sound now, where if you are like very like like people are gonna be like kind of bored by that. But so you're automatically touching on something without it, like where you're like, this is my limited thing. But because you have that limitation on you, it's like well, when we do music videos, because we don't have $300,000, that limiting thing makes you kind of forces you to create a cool product, you know, without even, because you don't have everything at your disposal and all these people doing everything for you. We literally do everything ourselves. And kind of what you were saying too, John, about like you're studying Photoshop. Nowadays, you have to be a little bit of everything. You have to know how to take your own photos. You have to know how to do your own songs. You have to know how to do your own marketing. So it forces all of us to have a limiting ability of all of it, and therefore you're good at everything but not a master of it all, you know, although you're masters of a lot of things, Dan. So maybe the guitar is more limited. You sound great, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But the key to that, Kat, is authenticity.
Exactly.
It's being honest to where you are in the moment of your ability.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why here's what's come up in every chat so far, and Kat, you've just reminded me on Unlock the Chest of that what I wanted to ask, which is that, do you guys, this is how I see it, the last 2 years of COVID, the last 2 years have led to so many bands, and we've got to add TikTok into this too. Look, I've got TikTok. I don't do 58 things a day like Gary tells me. I peruse and I use it as a tool to explore and to learn. I don't use it as a tool for me to try and bring in new people. I'm just trying to find maybe a Pep Squad or etc. Insert band here. And what I adore about this last 2 years, if we're focusing on just music, is that authenticity in DIY and production and creation in the first place. Is that we have seen, anyone that's followed music the last 20, 25 years, an interesting shift into, oh, it's about the voice. It's not about the makeup or the costume or the person. It's about that. But really, it's about the whole person, because the chairs are going to turn around. They want to see what it is, right? From Pop Idol to The Voice to everything in between. We have been the mainstream of those into music, conditioned to have a very particular, perfect outlook of what everything's going to be. Everything must be perfect. What I adore, without speaking for 25 minutes about one point I'm very passionate about the last 2 years, is the authenticity that has burst through. People going, well, hang on, I just worked 5 years to earn $5,000 to go in a studio for 2 days. Fuck it. I'll go to Walmart. I'll buy $5,000 worth of gear. I'll record an EP and learn how to do it myself. I'll go back to Walmart. I'll do it within 60 days and get all my money back. And then I'll put it on Spotify, put some TikTok things together. I've met bands that have done that in the last year. And what I love about that, and to my point again, Kat, what you inspired, that one word, authenticity. It's paramount. So like Dan is there chuckling going, oh my God, you're saying my guitar work is basic. But then on the other side of it, that's what's so interesting is you've got a virtuoso going, what's this motherfucker doing differently that I can't quite get that feel? And it's the authenticity to the individual in that moment.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, man. That actually really fires me up and inspires the hell out of me, because
I'm gonna write a song right now.
For a long time, I mean, guitars, I guess an example, I would always hire a guitar player because I was self-conscious. And at one point just said, you know what, fuck it. I think I could just play a little riff. And I think that's kind of the attitude of the whole band. It's like, fuck it. Let's just yell about something we want to yell about. And let's enjoy each other's company. And let's make something that just hits hard as hell. And hopefully people like it.
Yep. I'd rather stumble across, Curtis, to interrupt you. I'd rather stumble across a Pep Squad than discover the latest from an established band, I won't throw mud, that just feels like it's tripe. It's contrived. It's been, you owe us one more. I mean, the Strokes with RCA, the big middle finger they gave is hilarious several years ago about, you want a record? Well, we'll spend several years making it and it's really not very good. And we'll say the day it comes out that it's not our favorite, but we wanted to get out of this deal. And I remember being in commercial radio and having Sony and RCA come to us and fly across the world to bring the shittiest little speaker I've ever seen in my life to play so that we didn't record it on our phones and leak it. Right. And having to try and sell like, this is the best thing you've ever heard. And then it's like, oh, this is not it. And now we hear New Strokes, and you hear a rejuvenated and excited Julian. That is a masterpiece of a record. You hear what was, and that's why I think the world we're in, the TikTokers. Oh, sorry, Theo. I know you're named after my favorite chipmunk of Alvin. He's Theodore. Just so we're clear, everyone.
Nice.
But I get passionate and I forget that he's lying right here. It's the authenticity that screams through. People don't want to be told how to feel. They're going to look for what makes them feel what they're looking for, which is happy, sad, and everything in between.
Yep.
What we're here to do is just give people a feeling, and to go for like what Dan was saying. You know, I don't think any of us woke up and said, I'm going to be a virtuoso. I mean, you've heard all of our stories, how we kind of fell into it, or Alice Cooper said to do it. And like for me as a singer, I was never Mariah Carey. I taught myself how to sing. I had a lot of bad, like embarrassing moments on stage that anybody would probably quit after that, but I kept going because, again, deranged. But you know, I feel like that's something as a fan would probably, it's like, I sing because I have something to say. Could I be better? Could I do more warm up? Sure. But it's like, you play because you have something to say. It's like, that will always, that authenticity, like you said, will always be the number one thing that will separate maybe a Pep Squad or so many other indie bands out there that maybe you won't get that heart from like an Atlantic Records band that it's totally contrived and they're just trying to write the next pop song for the weekend. That you're like, yeah, this technically is a great song, but I don't feel anything from it because they didn't write it. And it doesn't mean like, you know, like Frank Sinatra, like he didn't write his music either, but he can sell you a fucking phone book. So, but there is this difference, you know, that I feel like, not to like boast about us, but I feel like we have that, and so many thousands of artists out there have. And unfortunately, there's a benefit to having the internet where we're all out there at the same time because we now don't need the labels to do it. But then the curse is there's so much noise, and maybe to find your favorite band is harder because everyone's trying to be famous on TikTok and everyone's got Spotify. So it's challenging, and it's an amazing time to be an artist all at the same time. So
yeah, it's one of those things. There's only two moves to make, you know, and this is true of a lot of things, but especially in this industry. You either evolve and respect the changes and go with them, or you don't make it. You know, it's like again, like whoever, you know, we don't, as a band, we're still figuring out how much we want to be on TikTok, but we're not going to pretend like it doesn't matter, you know, because that, you know, it's like when music changes, you know, as you get older, you know, you're never going to love something as much as you love the music that came out when you're in high school. It's just built into the way that we mature. You know, it's like you're going to have a special, because that was the first time you discovered music for you. But as you grow up and you continue, your music taste continue to evolve. If you don't at least respect what's happening, that is coming up, if you don't at least respect someone else loves something, then you're boxed in and you're never going to have new ideas. So I think for us, and I know for myself, it's like, it's just continuing to find ways to get excited and to also realize I want to still do this as a career. Okay, so how do I make this new thing work? How do I make this new app work? How do I make this new platform work? Because the hardest part, like Kat's saying, is breaking through the noise. The internet has leveled the playing field, but it's also completely watered down the amount of the value. So it's like it's
all consumer, like eating,
which is why a lot of our stuff, you know, we saw an avenue through TV and film. So like we don't write our songs. It's funny, when we got into this, I thought we were going to be writing more like almost like rock and roll jingles to try to get TV and film, but very quickly it was like, oh no, if this is a real thing that we believe in and we're saying something we believe in, that's actually what's going to get people to care. And that's what's worked. So every time we've actually had situations where we've been like, okay, let's just have it be the simplest idea ever. And one of us or the label will be like, can you make it weirder? Can you actually say fuck, like, go ahead and say it. And we're like, oh shit. And then the more we did that stuff, the more we were free. And I think that's just so important. It's just like, people in general like have to keep evolving, otherwise you end up in khakis and a blue polo shirt and you're 30 pounds overweight and you hate your job and you're lame as hell.
Oh, right.
Then that's a direct quote from Curtis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my greatest fear.
Speaking to Curtis 2015, and look at him now.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think, and that inspires a question that I will get to another time, because it's one that we can't break down in 60 seconds, nor do I want to, which is what I find fascinating, is that in speaking with bands last year, there is this new world now of, well, I don't think I need the fucking radio. Mm-hmm. I think I need to go after TV and publishing deals. And so that's something that I'd love to pick your brains on another time, especially considering the stable of work that you have all three been involved in over years. But that's not something we can do in 60 seconds.
A great placement breaks bands. A great placement finds fans. Like when we had the Netflix trailer for Teenage Bounty Hunters for Rebel, our band grew, our notoriety grew, our fan base grew, our streams went up.
Do I need to watch that? I feel.
Oh yeah. Also, I'll send you the trailer. But if you look up, I'll send you the trailer on that email. Yeah, it was we've had a couple things like that since, but it was the first one that was like, because sometimes you get a placement and you're the background music and it's fine. It's still awesome. You get paid, which obviously helps the band continue and all that kind of stuff. But once in a while you get something that the song, it's like a music video that you're being paid for.
Yeah.
You know, like we had one with the Equalizer, the Queen Latifah show, the Equalizer, about a month ago. It's like a 3-minute fight scene and it's freaking amazing.
Badass.
You know? And our song is loud as hell in the entire thing. Like that has value, and and for indie bands that is literally gold, but also like it is marketing and exposure wins all around. So it's funny, you know, like if you get in that world and you find your way in, and now we have fans at, you know, networks and people like that. That's really cool, you know, and it really helps this thing move along.
Yeah, now we have people being like, hey, we want Pep Squad to do this type of song, like requesting us. It's really cool.
It's really crazy. Yeah, it's really crazy.
We're like, wow, like we never expected any of that. So
yeah.
But anyways, I would love to keep talking. I have to beat some traffic. But
no, absolutely.
John, dude, this has left me very fired up, man. Thank you for having us. Real pleasure to talk to you, bro.
I'll put everyone on the email too, so we can. We'd love to have you send us those tracks and stuff. Thank you, honestly. Like, you know, especially for a new band, when anybody reaches out to us to do an interview, it means a lot.
It means a lot,
and especially when someone's as rad as you. So thank you.
Well, that's very kind. My aim is to galvanize, because it's from a place of genuine intrigue and
I can tell
fascination and excitement for a band and people. But yes, this won't be the last time we talk. But thank you, because you've agreed to speak with me at the start of my baby. You know, I don't have the commercial horse behind me anymore. Now I've got to prove myself and jump through 1,000 hoops to get an interview. So for you to tweet back so quick, to email back so quick, and to be here is much appreciated. So we can all lovingly leave each other knowing that we found some new friends.
I know.
Love it.
It's
Thanks,
really
brother.
Cool. Your story too. I thank you for sharing. You know,
man.
You've only that's the tip of the iceberg. So definitely, let's set up another one. I'd love to hear more about how you kind of comes into your way as well.
Yeah, maybe let's talk about the Deftones when Little Game comes out. Oh, I know Deftones, man.
Yeah,
I want to talk about Grammys. I want to talk about Coheed. I want to talk about all that.
Yeah, well, we will do that again. Awesome. Well, look, please drive safe back and out of Vegas. I don't know, just be safe and and have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you all so much. We'll speak soon.
Thank you. Dude.
Thanks, man.
Later.
Well, that's a conversation with Pep Squad. I really appreciate you being here. Whatever you do in the rest of your day, please look after yourself. And I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of it too, because we've got to cherish that positive. For more on What Was That? WhatWasThatRadio.com. Bye then. Cheerio. Cheerio.